My name is Fidela, and I'm 32 years old. I thought I knew what betrayal looked like. I thought I understood what it meant to be invisible in your own family. But nothing prepared me for watching my little sister walk into my wedding rehearsal wearing white a crown on her head, ready to turn my special day into her personal stage. What happened next changed everything I thought I knew about family loyalty and the cost of always keeping the peace. My sister had other plans for my wedding, and my mom kept telling me to stop overreacting. But when the truth finally came out, everyone saw who the real problem was all along. Before I tell you how my wedding almost became my sister's stage drop, a comment telling me where you're tuning in from, smash that like button and subscribe because this story gets wild. Growing up, I learned early that some people are just born to shine, and others are born to stand in the shadows and clap. In my family, my little sister Sienna was the star, and I was the stagehand, making sure everything ran smoothly behind the scenes. My mom Diane raised us alone after my dad walked out when I was 10, and Sienna was 6. I still remember that day watching mom collapse on the kitchen floor, sobbing into her hands, while Bill notices scattered around her like fallen leaves. She worked 2 jobs after that. Mornings at a dental office, evenings cleaning corporate buildings downtown. She'd come home smelling like disinfectant and exhaustion, but she never complained. Not once. Maybe that's why she let Sienna get away with everything. The baby of the family, the one who didn't remember dad, is clearly the one who seemed to need extra protection from the world's harsh edges. Sienna was beautiful in that effortless way some people are. Blonde hair that caught sunlight like spun gold blue eyes that sparkled when she laughed, and a smile that could convince anyone of anything. I looked more like dad, darker features, quieter presence, the kind of person who blends into group photos. I became the responsible one by default, made honor roll every semester, got a part-time job at 16 to help with groceries, chose a practical major in college graphic design, something that would lead to steady employment. I never caused trouble, never asked for much, never made mom's life harder than it already was. Sienna, on the other hand, floated through life expecting things to work out, because they always had. She was the one who got the expensive prom dress while I wore something from the clearance rack. She was 14 at the time of my senior prom, and I remember her crying for 3 days straight because mom bought me a dress instead of the designer shoes Sienna wanted. Mom ended up returning my dress and getting me something cheaper so Sienna could have those shoes. I wore a dress from Goodwill to my senior prom. At my high school graduation, a moment I'd worked so hard for Sienna managed to make it about herself. Right in the middle of the ceremony, she stood up and pretended to faint. Everyone rushed to help her. Mom left the auditorium with her. I walked across that stage to receive my diploma, with half the audience distracted, and my mom not even there to see it. When I confronted Sienna later, she laughed it off, said the auditorium was too hot, said she couldn't help it. Mom told me to stop being so sensitive, that these things happen, that Sienna was just a kid. Every birthday, every achievement, every moment that should have been mine somehow became about Sienna. She didn't do it maliciously at first. Or maybe she did, and I was too young to recognize manipulation when I saw it. The pattern continued into adulthood. I graduated college with honors and got a good job at a design firm. Sienna dropped out of community college after one semester, moved back home, and started calling herself a social media influencer. She had about 15,000 followers, mostly from posting pretty pictures of herself at coffee shops and talking about self-care and manifesting your dreams. Mom supported her unconditionally, said Sienna was finding herself, that not everyone follows a traditional path, that I should be more understanding of different forms of success. Meanwhile, I paid my own rent, built my own career, and slowly started to believe that maybe being invisible was just my role in this family. Then I met Ethan. It was 3 years ago at a charity fundraiser my firm was designing materials for. He was there representing his architecture company, tall with kind eyes and a laugh that made me feel like I'd known him forever. We talked for hours that night about everything and nothing. And when he asked for my number, I felt like maybe finally something good was happening just for me. Ethan loved me for exactly who I was. He thought my quiet strength was beautiful. He said my dedication to my work was inspiring. He never made me feel like I needed to be louder or flashier or different. We dated for 2.5 years before he proposed, and it was perfect. Just us on a hiking trail at sunset, no cameras, no audience, no performance. Just two people promising to build a life together. I was happier than I'd ever been. When I told my family, Mom cried happy tears and hugged me. But I noticed her glancing at Sienna, checking to make sure she wasn't upset. Sienna smiled and said congratulations, but the smile didn't reach her eyes. She left early that night, claiming she had a migraine. The next day, she posted a long Instagram caption about being happy for others, even when your own life feels stagnant. The comments poured in with sympathy and encouragement. She didn't mention me by name, but everyone who knew us understood. I pushed down the uneasy feeling in my gut. I told myself I was being paranoid that Sienna would come around, that maybe this would finally be the thing that brought us closer together as sisters. I was so wrong. Planning a wedding, I discovered, reveals who people really are. Ethan and I decided on a garden venue about 30 minutes outside the city, a beautiful old estate with climbing roses and ancient oak trees. We wanted something intimate, around 100 guests, just family and close friends. The date was set for 6 months out, enough time to plan, but not so long that we'd drive ourselves crazy with details. I asked Sienna to be a bridesmaid. It felt like the right thing to do, the sisterly thing to do. Part of me hoped it would be an olive branch, a way to include her in something important. She said yes, but her enthusiasm felt performative, like she was acting the part of a supportive sister rather than actually being one. 3 months before the wedding, everything started to unravel. The first incident was over bridesmaid dresses. I'd chosen a soft pastel pink, romantic and classic, and my three other bridesmaids loved it. We went shopping together, my best friend Jade and two friends from college, Lucy and Hannah. There was also Taylor, a friend from work. Everyone tried on dresses, laughed, took pictures, had champagne. It was exactly what I'd imagined. Sienna showed up late and immediately hated the color. She said pink washed her out, made her look sick, clashed with her undertones. She wanted champagne gold instead, something that would photograph better for her Instagram. I explained that I'd already put down deposits, that everyone else had agreed on pink, that it was too late to change. She called me controlling, said I never considered anyone else's feelings. Then she left the bridal shop, got in her car, and drove away. 2 hours later, Mom called me. Diane's voice was tight with disappointment. Sienna had called her crying, saying I was being unreasonable, that I was purposely choosing colors that would make her look bad in photos, that I didn't really want her in the wedding party. Mom asked if I could compromise, just this once, for family harmony. I tried to explain about the deposits, about the other bridesmaids who'd already ordered their dresses, about the fact that this was my wedding and I should get to make some decisions without them being questioned. Mom sighed. She said that thing she always said, that I was overreacting, that Sienna was sensitive, that I should be the bigger person. I got off the phone feeling angry and guilty in equal measure, a combination I'd felt my entire life. 2 months before the wedding, Sienna's Instagram became obsessed with weddings. She posted photos of elaborate white gowns with captions about future dreams. She shared venue inspiration, cake designs, flower arrangements. She used hashtags like future bride and wedding goals, and one day. At first I thought maybe she was just getting excited about weddings in general because of mine. Maybe she was genuinely happy for me and expressing it in her own way. Then I noticed she never mentioned my wedding specifically, never congratulated me in any of her posts, never shared any photos from my engagement. It was like she was planning her own fantasy wedding in public while pretending mine didn't exist. 1 month before the wedding, she asked if she could invite 3 of her friends. For content, she said. They were photographers and would get great shots for her Instagram. It would be good exposure for my wedding too, she added, as if that was a selling point. I told her the guest list was already full. We'd gone over capacity, trying to fit everyone important. Adding 3 more people wasn't possible. She got angry, called me selfish, said I didn't support her career, said if I really loved her, I'd make room for the people who mattered to her. That night, Mom called again. Same conversation, different day. Can't you just accommodate her? Why are you making this so difficult? She's your sister. I started to dread my phone ringing. 2 weeks before the wedding, I saw a text thread Sienna had left open on her phone when she came over to drop off something for Mom. I wasn't snooping, I swear. It was just there, glowing on the screen she'd set face up on the kitchen counter. The message said, "Just wait until the wedding. Everyone will see who really shines." When I asked her what that meant, she laughed it off, said she was joking with a friend, said I was being paranoid, said I needed to relax or I'd get stress wrinkles before my big day. I told Ethan about everything that night. He was furious on my behalf, ready to uninvite Sienna entirely. But I talked him down. "She's my sister," I said. "She'll come around. The wedding will be beautiful, and afterward this will all blow over." I actually believed that. The rehearsal was scheduled for 2 days before the wedding, late afternoon at the venue. Just the wedding party, immediate family, and the officiant. We'd walk through everything, make sure everyone knew where to stand and when to move, then have a casual dinner together. I woke up that morning with butterflies in my stomach, but they were happy butterflies. Excited butterflies. In 48 hours, I'd be marrying the love of my life. I had no idea I was walking into an ambush. The venue looked like something out of a fairy tale. The event coordinator had strung tiny lights through the oak trees, even though they wouldn't be turned on until the actual wedding. The chairs were arranged in perfect rows. The arch where Ethan and I would say our vows was decorated with white roses and trailing greenery. I arrived early with my bridesmaids. We were all wearing casual sundresses, comfortable shoes, relaxed. This was supposed to be the easy part. The fun part, the part where we laughed at mistakes and didn't take anything too seriously. Ethan and his groomsmen showed up right on time. His best man was his older brother Kyle, along with 3 college friends. Everyone was in good spirits, joking around, taking silly photos. Mom arrived and immediately asked where Sienna was. I said I didn't know that I'd texted her 3 times that morning and gotten no response. Diane called her. Sienna answered on the 4th ring, her voice breathy and rushed. She said she was running late finishing something important, but she'd be there soon. Mrs. Patterson, our wedding planner, suggested we start without her. We could fill Sienna in when she arrived. I agreed, trying not to let it bother me that my sister couldn't be on time for something this important. We walked through the processional order. The groomsmen practiced their entrances. The bridesmaids practiced theirs with someone standing in for Sienna's spot. Mrs. Patterson explained timing, pacing, where to pause for photos. Everything was going smoothly. Then the door at the back of the venue opened. Sienna walked in, and the entire garden went silent. She was wearing a white dress. Not off-white, not cream, not ivory. White. Pristine wedding white. It was a floor-length gown with intricate lace detailing a fitted bodice and a flowing skirt. The kind of dress that photographs beautifully, that catches light, that demands attention. Her hair was styled in elaborate curls pinned up with what looked like a small crystal tiara. Her makeup was dramatic, far more than anyone else was wearing. Red lips, heavy contour, false eyelashes that looked like butterfly wings. She looked like a bride. My brain couldn't process what I was seeing. For a moment, I genuinely thought I was hallucinating, that stress had finally broken something in my mind. She smiled that dazzling smile she'd perfected over 24 years and walked down the aisle toward us like she was the star of this production. "Sorry I'm late," she said brightly. "Do you like my dress? I thought we should all look our best for pictures." Nobody spoke. Lucy and Hannah exchanged glances. Jade's mouth hung open. Ethan looked at me with concern clear on his face. Kyle, Ethan's brother, stared at Sienna like she'd grown a second head. I found my voice, though it came out smaller than I intended. "What are you doing? Why are you wearing white?" Sienna touched the fabric of her dress delicately, as if she was surprised by the question. "Oh, it's not white, Fidela. It's ivory. Totally different." The distinction was ridiculous, and we both knew it. "Take it off," I said louder now. "This is my wedding rehearsal." "You're overreacting again," Sienna said, her voice taking on that patient tone she used when she wanted to make me look hysterical. "It's just a dress." I wanted to look nice. My chest felt tight. My hands were shaking. I wanted to scream, to cry, to physically drag her out of my venue. But there were 50 eyes on us, and I could feel everyone's discomfort like a physical weight. Mom stepped forward, putting a hand on my arm. "Fidela, calm down. People are watching." I whirled on her. "Mom, she's wearing a white dress to my wedding rehearsal." "It's not exactly white," Diane said, and I heard the beginning of an excuse forming. "And it's just rehearsal, not the real wedding. Stop making a scene." Something inside me cracked. Not broke exactly, but cracked. like ice on a lake when the temperature changes. Jade stepped forward, her voice sharp. Sienna, this is completely inappropriate. Sienna turned to Jade with mock innocence. Oh, please, I'm the bridesmaid. I'm part of the wedding. I can wear what I want. Ethan crossed the space between us, putting himself slightly in front of me. Sienna, you need to change or leave. For a moment, genuine surprise crossed Sienna's face. She hadn't expected Ethan to stand up to her. Most men were charmed by her, found her entertaining, let her get away with anything. Wow, she said, recovering quickly. Even you're ganging up on me. I thought you were nice, Ethan. Mom's voice rose. Ethan, don't be harsh. Sienna, honey, maybe you should have worn something else, but it's too late now. Let's just continue. The words hit me like a slap. Too late now, just continue. Let it go. Always let it go. I looked at my mother, really looked at her, and saw what I'd been refusing to see for 28 years. She wasn't going to protect me. She was never going to choose me over Sienna. I could be bleeding on the ground, and she'd tell me not to overreact about the wound. Sienna, sensing victory, walked past all of us and took her place with the other bridesmaids. She pulled out her phone and started taking selfies, posing in her white dress in my wedding venue. Mrs. Patterson approached me quietly. Do you want to stop? I wanted to. Every fiber of my being wanted to call it off, go home, cancel everything. But I thought about all the people traveling for the wedding, about Ethan's family arriving tomorrow, about the money already spent. I shook my head. We'll continue. The rest of the rehearsal was torture. Sienna performed every moment like she was the main character. She stepped forward whenever someone took a photo, angling herself to be in the center. She laughed too loudly when Mrs. Patterson gave instructions. She stood uncomfortably close to Ethan when we practiced the processional, close enough that he physically stepped away. When we got to the part where the officiant would pronounce us husband and wife, Sienna actually stepped out of the bridesmaid line and positioned herself next to me and Ethan, like she was part of the couple. Mrs. Patterson gently guided her back, but the damage was done. The message was clear. Sienna had no intention of staying in the background. After rehearsal, we moved to the private dining room we'd reserved for dinner. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Ethan's parents looked uncomfortable. My mom kept glancing between me and Sienna like she was at a tennis match. My bridesmaids huddled together, whispering. Sienna sat at the main table in her white dress, still taking photos, posting stories on Instagram with captions like pre-wedding vibes and feeling like a bride. I sat next to Ethan, my jaw clenched so tight it ached. He held my hand under the table, rubbing circles on my palm with his thumb, trying to comfort me. During the meal, when it came time for toasts, Sienna stood up without being asked. She tapped her glass with a fork until everyone looked at her. I just want to say, she began, her voice syrupy sweet, how happy I am for my big sister. Fidela has always been so steady, so reliable. And she found someone equally steady in Ethan. That's really special. The words sounded like compliments, but the delivery made them feel like insults. Steady, reliable, boring. She continued, I can't wait until it's my turn. I've always dreamed of a wedding like this, maybe even better, more unique, more memorable. Some people in the room shifted uncomfortably. Ethan's mother, Mrs. Anderson, set down her fork with more force than necessary. Sienna concluded with Fidela, I hope you appreciate all this because not everyone gets so lucky. Some of us are still waiting for our moment. She sat down to scattered awkward applause. I excused myself and went to the bathroom. I locked myself in a stall and let the tears come silent and hot and furious. I'd worked so hard to make this weekend perfect, and my sister had destroyed it before it even began. A knock came on the stall door. Fidela. It was Jade's voice. Let me in. I opened the door. Jade looked at me with such compassion that I nearly broke down completely. She's planning something, Jade said, for the actual wedding. What I heard her on the phone earlier outside. She said something like phase 1 complete. Tomorrow is going to be even better. I'll make sure all eyes are on me. The tears stopped. Something cold and hard settled in my chest. I'm going to stop her, I said. That night, Ethan and I went back to our hotel room. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Sienna in that white dress smiling like she'd won something. At 2 in the morning, I was sitting on the balcony when Ethan found me. We could ban her from the wedding, he said quietly. I shook my head. Mom would never forgive me. And honestly, I want her there. I want her there when I prove who she really is. He sat next to me. What are you thinking? I'm thinking that I've spent my entire life being told to keep the peace, to let things go, to be understanding. And where has it gotten me? She's trying to steal my wedding. So what do? We let her think she's winning, I said. And then we show everyone exactly who she's been all along. At 11 that night, I called an emergency meeting with my bridesmaids. They all came to my hotel suite in pajamas, faces clean of makeup, ready for whatever plan I had. I told them everything. The years of being overshadowed. The constant gaslighting from my mother. The text I'd seen about everyone seeing who really shines. Jade's eyes flashed with anger. Lucy cracked her knuckles. Hannah said she'd had a bad feeling about Sienna from day one. Taylor offered to accidentally spill red wine on any white dress Sienna wore tomorrow. I loved them all fiercely in that moment. Here's what we're going to do, I said. We're going to let Sienna dig her own grave. I called Mrs. Patterson and explained the situation. She'd been a wedding planner for 30 years and had seen every kind of family drama imaginable. Honey, she said, I've dealt with scene stealers before. Don't worry, I'll make sure your day goes smoothly. She suggested hiring a second photographer, someone whose only job would be to document everything Sienna did. Not for the wedding album, but for evidence. I agreed immediately. Mrs. Patterson also mentioned that she had a backup dress for me in storage, a different designer, a different style, something stunning that I could change into if needed, just in case. I felt a small measure of control returning. Ethan called his brother Kyle and the other groomsmen. He asked them to keep eyes on Sienna throughout the day, to intervene if she tried anything disruptive. We went to bed at 4 in the morning, my mind still racing, but my resolve firm. My wedding day arrived with perfect weather, clear blue sky, gentle breeze, temperature in the low 70s. I got ready with my bridesmaids at the venue's bridal suite. Hair and makeup artists worked their magic. My dress was everything I dreamed of: elegant lace with delicate beading, a fitted bodice and flowing skirt. Classic and timeless. When I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized myself. For a moment, I forgot about Sienna. For a moment, I was just a bride on her wedding day. Then my phone rang. Mom. I hope you're happy, Diane said. No hello, no pleasantries. Sienna cried all night because of how you treated her yesterday. The bubble of happiness popped. Mom, I didn't do anything wrong. We'll talk about this later, she said, and hung up. I took a breath. Today was my day. I wouldn't let this ruin it. By 3 in the afternoon, guests were arriving. The venue looked spectacular. White roses everywhere. String quartet playing softly, golden sunlight filtering through the oak trees. My bridesmaids were dressed in their pastel pink gowns, looking beautiful. Jade, Lucy, Hannah, and Taylor. 4 women who actually loved me and wanted me to be happy. Sienna hadn't arrived yet. At 4:15, 15 minutes before the ceremony was supposed to start, she appeared in the bridal suite doorway. She was wearing a cream-colored cocktail dress. Not quite white, but close enough. It was short, sequined, eye-catching. The kind of dress you wear to a club, not a wedding. The room went silent. Sienna smiled. What? You said no white. This is cream, totally different. Lucy opened her mouth to say something, but I held up a hand. Okay, Sienna, I said, my voice eerily calm. Wear whatever you want. She looked surprised by my reaction. She'd expected a fight, expected drama, expected me to play my usual role. I didn't give it to her. Mrs. Patterson appeared in the doorway, saw Sienna's dress, looked at me, and gave a small nod, the signal that everything was in place. The ceremony began at 4:30. I stood at the back of the venue with my Uncle Robert, who was walking me down the aisle, since my father wasn't in the picture. My hands were steady on his arm. My breathing was calm. The bridesmaids and groomsmen processed down the aisle in pairs. When Sienna walked out with Kyle, I heard the guests whisper, saw heads turn, watched people lean toward each other, exchanging confused glances. Sienna walked slower than the others, posing at intervals like she was on a runway. Kyle looked uncomfortable beside her. Then the wedding march played. Uncle Robert squeezed my arm. You ready, sweetheart? I smiled. More than ready. We walked down the aisle together. I saw Ethan at the altar, tears in his eyes, looking at me like I was the only person in the world. I saw my mother in the front row, her expression complicated. I saw Ethan's parents smiling warmly. I saw friends and cousins and people who loved us. And yes, I saw Sienna standing with the bridesmaids, but positioned slightly forward, slightly out of line. The ceremony was beautiful. Our officiant spoke about love and partnership and choosing each other every day. Ethan and I exchanged vows we'd written ourselves. His voice cracked when he promised to always see me, always choose me, always stand beside me. When he slipped the ring on my finger, I felt complete. We kissed as husband and wife and the guests erupted in applause. In my peripheral vision, I saw Sienna step forward out of the bridesmaid line, positioning herself closer to Ethan and me, trying to be in the photos being taken. Sarah, the second photographer Mrs. Patterson had hired, captured it all. The reception was held in the covered pavilion adjacent to the garden. Round tables with white linens and pink roses. A dance floor under twinkling lights. A string quartet that would later transition to a DJ. Ethan and I had our first dance to a song we both loved, and in that moment, everything else fell away. It was just us moving together, beginning our marriage the right way. Then came the speeches. Ethan's brother Kyle spoke first, telling funny stories about Ethan as a kid, talking about how he'd never seen his brother as happy as he was with me. It was sweet and genuine. Then it was the bridesmaid's turn. Jade went first, talking about our friendship, about how I'd always been there for her, about how much she admired my strength. Sienna was supposed to go last, but she stood up before anyone else could speak. She grabbed the microphone with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I just want to say congratulations to my amazing sister," she began, her voice carrying across the reception. Fidela has always been so practical, so sensible. And she found someone equally sensible in Ethan. That's really wonderful. Again, the words sounded nice, but felt like knives. "I can't wait until it's my turn," she continued. "I've always dreamed of a wedding like this. Maybe even bigger, more glamorous. I deserve happiness too, you know. Not everyone gets lucky like Fidela. Some of us have to wait our turn." She paused, looking around at the confused faces of our guests. "Fidela, I hope you appreciate all of this because not everyone gets handed everything on a silver platter. Some of us work really hard and still end up in the shadows." Ethan's mother audibly gasped. Several guests looked at each other uncomfortably. Sienna sat down with a satisfied smile. The DJ quickly started the next song to break the awkward tension. About 30 minutes later, Sienna excused herself to go to the bathroom. Mom followed her. Sarah, our undercover photographer, happened to be nearby. She later told me she heard everything. From inside the bathroom, voices carried. "Sienna, people are starting to notice," Diane said. "Maybe you should tone it down." "Why should I?" Sienna's voice was sharp. "This is the one time people actually look at me instead of perfect Fidela. I know you're upset, but this isn't the way. You always say that, but you never actually stop her from overshadowing me. Today is my chance." "What do you mean?" I'm going to make sure people remember me from this wedding, not her. I've been planning this for months." There was a long pause. Sarah had her phone out. She recorded the entire conversation. When Sienna and Mom came back, Sarah found me and played the audio. I listened with tears in my eyes, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of vindication. Finally proof. Finally something Mom couldn't explain away. The father-daughter dance came next. Since my father wasn't in my life, Uncle Robert had agreed to dance with me. It was a sweet moment, him telling me how proud he was, how much he loved me. Halfway through the song, Sienna appeared at the edge of the dance floor. "Can I cut in?" she called out loudly. "I want to dance too." The music faltered. Uncle Robert looked at me uncertain. I stepped back and gestured to Sienna. "Sure, you can have your moment." Sienna lit up, thinking she'd won again. She took Uncle Robert's hand and began dancing, but it was too energetic for the slow song, and she kept trying to direct his movements. Several guests watched with obvious disapproval. After the song ended, I walked to the DJ booth. I'd planned this moment carefully. "Can I have everyone's attention?" I said into the microphone. The reception fell quiet. Ethan looked at me knowing something was about to happen, but trusting me completely. "Thank you all so much for being here on our special day," I began. It means the world to Ethan and me to be surrounded by people who love and support us. I pause looking around the room. I want to take a moment to talk about family. Family is complicated. We don't always see eye to eye. Sometimes the people who are supposed to protect us are the ones who hurt us the most. But today showed me something important. It showed me who I can really count on. I signaled to Mrs. Patterson, who was controlling the presentation screen we'd set up for toasts. A video began to play on the large screen. First footage from yesterday's rehearsal. Sienna walking in wearing white, the shocked faces of our guests, her posing and taking selfies while I stood there devastated. Then footage from today. Sienna in her cream dress positioned to photobomb our ceremony pictures. Her speech where she called me lucky and said she deserved happiness too. Her cutting into my father-daughter dance. Finally, the audio from the bathroom. Crystal clear. Sienna's voice saying, "This is the one time people actually look at me instead of perfect Fidela. I'm going to make sure people remember me from this wedding, not her. I've been planning this for months." The reception was dead silent. Every face turned to look at Sienna. She stood frozen, her face draining of color. Mom's hand covered her mouth, tears streaming down her face. "I've spent my whole life being told to not overreact," I said, my voice steady despite the emotions roiling inside me. Being told to be understanding, to let things go, to be the bigger person. But today is my wedding. This is supposed to be my day. And I won't apologize for wanting it to be about me and Ethan. I looked directly at Sienna. "I love you, Sienna. You're my sister. But I won't let you hurt me anymore. I won't let you turn every important moment in my life into your stage." Then I turned to my mother. "Mom, I needed you to see this. Not to hurt you, not to embarrass you, but because I needed you to finally understand what I've been trying to tell you for 28 years. I needed you to hear it from her own mouth." Diane was sobbing now, her makeup running down her face. Mrs. Patterson and two security guards approached Sienna. "Sienna!" "I'm going to have to ask you to leave," Mrs. Patterson said firmly. Sienna found her voice shrill and panicked. "You can't kick me out. I'm her sister." "You're my sister," I said, and my voice broke just slightly. "But you're not acting like one. Please leave." Sienna looked around desperately for support, for someone to defend her, for Mom to swoop in and fix things like she always did. But Mom stood up, tears still falling, and said the words I'd waited my entire life to hear. "Sienna," her voice shook. "You need to go." Sienna's face crumpled. She looked at Mom like she'd been slapped. Then she looked at me with pure hatred. "This isn't over," she hissed. "Yes, it is," I said. She grabbed her purse and ran out of the pavilion, her heels clicking against the floor, the cream dress sparkling under the lights one last time. For a moment, no one moved. Then someone started clapping. Just one person at first. Then another. Then another. Soon the entire reception was applauding. Ethan wrapped his arms around me and I finally let myself cry. Not sad tears, not angry tears, relieved tears. The DJ played music again. People went back to eating and drinking and dancing. The rest of the night was everything a wedding should be. Joyful, celebratory. About me and Ethan starting our life together. But the best moment came an hour later when Mom approached me. Mom's face was blotchy from crying, her mascara smudged despite her attempts to clean it up. She stood a few feet away from me like she wasn't sure if she was welcome to come closer. "Fidela," she said softly, "can we talk?" I nodded, and we moved to a quieter corner of the venue away from the music and laughter. "I owe you an apology," she began, her voice cracking. "I owe you 1,000 apologies." I waited, letting her continue. I was blind. I thought I was protecting Sienna, helping her, but I was enabling her. And in the process, I was hurting you. I made you feel invisible in your own family. Tears spilled down my cheeks. Every time you came to me about something Sienna did, I dismissed you. I told you to stop overreacting. I made you question your own feelings, your own reality. That's not what a mother should do. Her hands twisted together, a gesture I remembered from childhood when she was anxious. "I think I was scared," she admitted. "Scared that if I didn't give Sienna extra attention, extra grace, she'd end up like I did after your father left. Broken. Lost. I thought if I protected her from consequences, she'd be okay. But I was wrong. I wasn't protecting her. I was making it so she never learned to be responsible for her own actions. Mom looked at me with red-rimmed eyes, and I was sacrificing you in the process. My good daughter, my reliable daughter, the one who never asked for anything. I took advantage of your kindness, and I'm so, so sorry. I couldn't speak. My throat was too tight. She stepped closer. You were right about everything. Every complaint, every time you said something felt wrong. You were right. And I should have listened. I should have believed you. I should have protected you too. I managed to find my voice. I just wanted you to see me, Mom. That's all I ever wanted. I see you now, she whispered. I see you now, and I'm so proud of who you've become. You're stronger than I ever was. You stood up for yourself when I never taught you how. You didn't learn that from me. You learned that despite me. We hugged, then both of us crying, years of hurt and misunderstanding flowing out in that embrace. I forgive you, I said, because I did. Because holding on to anger would only poison my happiness. We stayed like that for a long time, my mother and I finally meeting each other as two imperfect people trying their best. The rest of the reception was perfect. Ethan and I danced until my feet hurt. We cut the cake and fed each other like kids. We laughed with friends and thanked guests who kept telling us it was the most memorable wedding they'd ever been to. When it was time to leave, we walked through a tunnel of sparklers held by our loved ones, climbed into a car, decorated with tin cans and a just married sign, and drove off into our new life. 3 months later, Ethan and I returned from our honeymoon in Hawaii, tanned, relaxed, happier than ever. We'd spent 2 weeks disconnected from everything, just the two of us, exploring islands and falling even more in love. When we got back, there was a letter waiting for me, handwritten, from Sienna. I opened it with Ethan beside me, both of us uncertain of what it would say. Dear Fidela, it began. I don't know if you'll read this. I wouldn't blame you if you threw it away. But I'm hoping you'll give me a chance to say what I should have said a long time ago. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for trying to ruin your wedding. I'm sorry for making everything about me. I'm sorry for years of stealing your moments and making you feel small. I'm sorry for being the worst kind of sister. After what happened at your wedding, Mom made me start seeing a therapist. At first, I was angry about it. I thought everyone was ganging up on me. But Dr. Stevens has helped me see things I couldn't see before. I was jealous of you. I know that sounds ridiculous because everyone always paid attention to me, but it wasn't real attention. It was superficial. People liked how I looked, liked my social media, but nobody actually knew me. Nobody respected me the way they respected you. You worked hard, you built a career, you had real friends who loved you for who you were, not what you looked like. You found someone who genuinely valued you. And I had nothing real, just followers and likes and a family that enabled my worst behavior because they felt sorry for me. I wanted what you had, but instead of working to build my own life, I tried to tear yours down. That was wrong. That was cruel. That was unforgivable. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm just asking you to know that I see it now. I see what I did. I see who I became. And I'm trying to change. I'm staying with a friend in Portland. I got a job at a coffee shop. It's humbling, but it's honest work. I deleted Instagram. I'm focusing on becoming a real person instead of a performance. Maybe someday we can talk. Maybe someday I can be the sister you deserved all along. But I understand if that day never comes. I hope you're happy with Ethan. I hope your marriage is everything you dreamed it would be. You deserve that, and so much more. Love, Sienna. I read the letter twice. Ethan read it over my shoulder. What do you think he asked? I think she means it, I said. I think she's really trying. Are you going to respond? I thought about it. About the years of pain. About the wedding that almost wasn't. About the sister I'd lost long before that day in the garden. Eventually, I said, when I'm ready, 6 months after the wedding, I reached out to Sienna. We met at a small coffee shop, neutral territory, both of us nervous. She looked different, simpler. Her hair was its natural color pulled back in a ponytail. Minimal makeup, regular clothes instead of designer brands. We talked for 3 hours that day, really talked. She told me about therapy, about the things she was learning about herself, about how scared she was that she'd wasted her 20s being someone fake, about how she was trying to figure out who she really was underneath all the performance. I told her about the honeymoon, about married life, about the job promotion I'd gotten at work, about the real things happening in my real life. It wasn't perfect. There were awkward silences. There were moments of tension. But it was honest. For the first time in our lives, we were being honest with each other. We started meeting once a month. Sometimes it went well, sometimes it was hard, but we kept showing up. A year after the wedding, I found out I was pregnant. Ethan and I were overjoyed, terrified, and excited all at once. I told Mom first, then I told my friends. Then after a few days, I told Sienna. She cried when I told her. Happy tears, real tears. "I'm going to be an aunt," she said, her voice full of wonder. "You are," I confirmed. She bought a gift for the baby, something thoughtful and sweet, not expensive or showy. She asked if she could come to doctor's appointments sometimes. She wanted to be involved, but she asked permission instead of assuming. It was different. She was different. When my daughter Lily was born, Sienna was one of the first people to visit the hospital. She held her niece with such gentleness, such awe, and whispered, "I promise I'll be a good aunt. I promise I'll be better." Now, 2 years after that wedding, things aren't perfect. Sienna still struggles sometimes. There are moments when old patterns try to resurface, but she catches herself now. She apologizes. She tries. Mom has changed too. She's learning to treat us equally, to see both of her daughters clearly. She babysits Lily and helps Sienna with job applications, and shows up for both of us in ways she never did before. Our family isn't what I thought it would be. It's not a fairy tale, but it's real, it's honest, and slowly, painfully, we're healing. I look back on that wedding day sometimes, the day I finally stopped asking permission to be seen. The day I stood up for myself even though it was terrifying. The day I showed everyone, including myself, that I was done being invisible. It wasn't the perfect wedding I'd planned, but it became something more important. It became the day I found my voice. Ethan tells me he's proud of me for that. He says watching me stand up to my family was when he knew without any doubt that I was the strongest person he'd ever met. I don't always feel strong. Sometimes I still hear Mom's voice in my head telling me I'm overreacting. Sometimes I still feel guilty for making Sienna leave my wedding. Sometimes I wonder if I was too harsh. But then I remember that audio recording. I remember Sienna's voice saying she'd been planning it for months. I remember all the years before that, all the moments stolen, all the times I was told my feelings didn't matter. And I know I did the right thing. Being kind doesn't mean being a doormat. Loving your family doesn't mean letting them hurt you. Setting boundaries isn't cruel. It's necessary. It's healthy. It's the only way to have real relationships instead of toxic ones. My wedding taught me that. It taught me that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is show someone the truth, even when it hurts. Even when they hate you for it, even when everyone thinks you're the villain. Because eventually, if they're capable of it, they'll understand. They'll see what you were trying to tell them all along. And if they don't, if they never understand, then at least you'll know you tried. At least you'll know you stood up for yourself. At least you'll know you didn't spend your whole life being small so others could feel big. My sister tried to hijack my wedding. My mom enabled her for 28 years. But in the end, I was the one who wore white. I was the one who married the love of my life. I was the one who got the happy ending. Not because I was lucky, like Sienna said, but because I fought for it, because I decided I was worth fighting for. And that's a lesson I'll teach my daughter. That's a lesson I'll carry with me forever. You are worth fighting for. Your feelings matter. Your moments matter. Your life matters. Don't let anyone, even family, especially family, tell you otherwise. My wedding wasn't hijacked after all. It became exactly what it needed to be. The day I stopped overreacting and started reacting exactly right. So let me ask you something. Have you ever had to stand up to family? Have you ever been told you're overreacting when you were actually reacting perfectly? Drop a comment and tell me your story. Hit that like button if this resonated with you. Subscribe because I want to hear from you. And share this if you know someone who needs to hear that their feelings are valid, that their boundaries matter, that they deserve to be seen. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here. I hope wherever you are, whoever you're dealing with, you find the courage to stand up for yourself the way I finally did. You deserve a life where you're not invisible. You deserve a family that sees you. And if they don't, you deserve the strength to build a chosen family that does. Take care of yourselves. Set those boundaries. And remember, you're never overreacting when you're protecting your peace.